Hello, and welcome to our third story of our Robin Hood stories. So, this is kind of our last setup story. And then next week, we are going to do one of the stories where Robin Hood actually gets to trick the Sheriff of Nottingham. So, that's one of the more kind of fun ones, whereas these last couple have been setup stories, right? So, the first one was our introduction to who Robin Hood was as a character. Our second story furthered that characterization of him, taught us some new things about him, but also showed us how he became an outlaw, right? The story how Robin Hood becomes an outlaw. The ones that we're going to read today are going to set us up with Robin Hood and his band of merry men, and are going to discuss how he finds that group and kind of settles in with them. So I did post this as a PDF. It is titled The Outlaws of Sherwood Forest. If you want to follow along there, you can also just listen. It's totally up to you. So, The Outlaws of Sherwood Forest. Robin ran through the forest until he could run no more. I wish that forester had never spoken to me, he thought to himself. I wish that I had followed a different path through the forest. But what was done was done. Robin was now an outlaw. He could not return to his home. He could not see his father or Maid Marian again. Now he would have to hide in the forest and live like an animal. But Robin soon realized that he was not alone in the forest. Other men lived there too. The first person Robin met was called Will Struteley. Will Struteley was a thin man with sharp eyes. I'm a barber, Will explained to Robin. I used to shave the beards of Norman knights. Then one day I cut a man's throat and he died. Now I am a wanted man. Soon many other men joined them. Some of the men were in the forest because they had not paid their taxes. Some of the men had killed the king's deer in winter because there had been no food for their families. All these men were outlaws. They had come to Sherwood Forest to escape the king's soldiers. It was easy for the outlaws to hide. Sherwood was a large forest and it was summer. The days were long and warm. There were many deer to hunt and fish to catch in the rivers. There was dry wood for making fires, and nuts and berries to eat from the trees and bushes. There was wild corn in the clearings at the forest's edge. There were now more than 50 outlaws, and that number grew each week. The outlaws wore coats of Lincoln green, which they had stolen from the king's foresters. The green coats helped them to hide in the forest. Every day the sheriff robs the ordinary people with high taxes, Robin said to the other outlaws. We should rob the sheriff in return. But we will not rob him because we want to be rich. We will rob the rich and give to the poor. We will not harm women, children, or honest men. We will right wrongs when we can, and we will bring hope to the people. We will live outside the law because the law is only for rich men. We will fight these rich men's unfair laws. Every day, Robin and the outlaws moved to a different part of Sherwood. They knew that the sheriff's men often came through the forest looking for them. The sheriff's men wanted the reward of 100 golden crowns for Robin Hood caught dead or alive. We cannot go on living like this, Robin said to the other outlaws. We cannot keep running away from the sheriff's men. We have to stop and fight. But we cannot fight, said Will. We only have a few bows and knives and quarterstaffs. The sheriff's men have swords and shields. They have crossbows, and there are too many of them for us to fight. We will not fight them all at the same time, replied Robin, but we can fight a few of them at a time. We must find somewhere we can live without the sheriff's men finding us. In a few weeks it will be autumn and the leaves of the forest will turn brown and fall. The days will grow short and cold. Soon we will need food for the winter. We must fight the winter and the sheriff of Nottingham." So the outlaws went in small groups. They went to explore the deepest parts of the forest. They were looking for a place where no one would be able to find them. Robin searched the forest alone. He followed paths and crossed rivers. At last he came to a part of the wood where the sun did not shine. Here the trees and bushes grew high and thick, like a dark green wall. Robin followed the wall until he found a narrow path which went into the deep bushes. Robin followed this path for many minutes until he came to a clearing. The clearing was neither damp nor dark. It was a place of light and air. It was on a high slope that rose above the trees. Around the edges of the clearing was a large ring of stones. A dead oak tree with broken branches stood on the top of the slope. Robin walked up to it. There was a crack in the side of the tree, and inside was a hollow space. Robin could see something shining inside. He put his hand inside and pulled out a horn. The horn was made of bone and white metal. It was a hunting horn. Robin put the horn to his lips and blew it hard. Suddenly the trees and bushes all bent down as if they were under a great wind. The clearing became very bright. The sound of the horn sang through the forest as Robin called the other outlaws to him. He blew the horn again and again. The men had traveled far across Sherwood Forest, but they all heard the sound of the horn. Immediately they stopped searching and followed the noise until they came to the clearing and the old oak tree. And Robin and the outlaws had found their new home. I'm actually going to go on and read the 4th section so that we can be ready for our kind of bigger story next week. So this section is called Little John, and it is also on that same PDF if you are following. So the men made a simple camp in the clearing. The narrow path was the only way into the camp, and it was easy to guard. "Tomorrow we will go hunting again," said Robin to the men. "But this time we will go hunting for news. We need information about the sheriff's men. We need to know who is traveling to Nottingham. Look for groups of knights. Look for tax collectors. They will travel slowly and will have money and weapons. We will welcome them here in the woods." The next day, Robin went alone to the edge of Sherwood Forest. He walked along a path until he came upon a river. A branch of wood crossed the river like a bridge. Only one man could walk across this branch at a time. A stranger was coming along the path from the opposite direction. The stranger and Robin stood at either end of the bridge. Both men carried quarterstaffs. The stranger was very tall and very broad. He was the biggest man that Robin had ever seen. "Let the better man cross first," shouted the stranger to Robin. The stranger had a handsome, happy face. He smiled at Robin as he spoke, and Robin also smiled. "Then let me pass," he said, "for I am the better man." "Ah, we shall see," said the stranger, then lifted his quarterstaff in both hands, ready to fight. Robin took hold of his own quarterstaff and stepped onto the branch. The stranger also stepped onto the branch, and the two men began to fight. Robin was tall, but the stranger was taller. Robin was broad, but the stranger was broader. Both men were strong. They moved backwards and forwards along the narrow branch as they fought. After many minutes of fighting, the stranger hit Robin hard on the side of his head, and Robin fell into the water, and the stranger laughed. "Now, who is the better man?" said the man. "Here, give me your hand, You have given me good exercise today." He helped Robin out of the water, and the two men sat next to the river. "What is your name?" asked Robin. "I'm called Little John," said the stranger. "Have you ever heard of Robin Hood?" asked Robin. "Of course I have," said Little John. "He's an outlaw who lives here in the forest. The sheriff of Nottingham is looking for him. But I have no love for the sheriff and his men, so I hope that he doesn't catch Robin Hood." "Would you like to join Robin Hood and his group of outlaws?" asked Robin. Little John looked at Robin carefully. "Who are you?" he asked. "And why do you want me to become an outlaw?" Robin did not answer. Instead, he took his horn from his belt and blew it 3 times. Soon his men came running from the forest. They came to the river and stood around Robin and Little John. "My name is Robin Hood, and these are my men," Robin said. "Will you join us?" "I see many men around you," said John Little. "But I still do not know you. I only know the name Robin Hood. I also know that Robin Hood is a very good archer. Show me that you can shoot an arrow, and I will believe you." Robin lifted his bow and arrow. "Tell me what to shoot," he said. John Little looked round and pointed into the forest. "Do you see that young tree?" he asked. "It's about 500 paces away and no broader than a man's hand. Can you shoot an arrow into that tree?" "Well, it's not an easy target," said Robin. "You have chosen well." Robin put an arrow to his bow. Then he took aim and shot the arrow into the young tree. "You must be Robin Hood," said John Little. "Well, I do not love the sheriff, nor the men who collect taxes from the common people. So yes, Robin Hood, I will join you and your men." Robin smiled at the big man, then he laughed loudly. "We must have a feast to celebrate," he said, "and to welcome you to our home in Sherwood Forest." In the forest clearing by the old oak tree, the outlaws built a great fire and roasted an ox. They ate the ox and drank ale until they were full. At the end of the feast, Robin took a cup of ale and held it over Little John's head. "You are the biggest man I have ever seen," Robin said. "And now you are one of us, so we will give you a new name. We shall call you Little John." And Robin poured the ale over Little John's head. And that is the end of our 2 sections. Thank you.